Zack Polanski and Caroline Lucas spoke at a Compass event on Saturday, and I wanted to go over this article from The Guardian that talks about the need to appeal to reform voters, meet them where they are, and look at the broader material conditions that lead to people voting reform. Also, I wanted to go over a brief video from Helena from No Justice, friend of the channel, because I think she really hits the nail on the head on how we appeal and how we attack Reform Party in a way that doesn't alienate their base. So this is the article. So Green leader warns party it must listen to Reform voters' concerns to confront inequality. The current and former leaders of the Green Party have warned that the party should listen to the concerns of Reform UK voters in order to confront inequality. Zack Polanski and Caroline Lucas said on Saturday that the Greens needed to understand why voters affected by the cost of living crisis were attracted to Nigel Farage's party. Polanski has previously said he would welcome reform voters to his party, was speaking at a conference organised by the left wing campaign group Compass in East London, which a lot of reform voters have moved on because they want an alternative. They want their problem solved. They understand that it isn't working. And there's a real attractive proposition for reform voters, and we'll get into that. Latest polling shows 27% of the electorate would vote reform in a general election if a general election was held, potentially paving the way for Farage to become the next prime minister. I could stand here and spend the rest of the evening talking about why reform are bad, and I'd feel great, said Polanski, who was elected to lead the party last year. But there's a really important distinction that needs to be made. Nigel Farage, the Reform MPs, the people who speak for them, are very different to the people who might be thinking about voting Reform. I need to make this distinction more. I've been doing videos on Farage, Robert Kenyon, and I think they are grifters, they are demagogues. They are exploiting the real pain and alienation of a lot of British people. But you've got to separate that from the voters who are just seeing reformers. Well, let's give them a chance. Reform, Tories, Labour, both the same. Maybe they can do something different. It's a protest vote. It's the idea that actually we've been neglected by the establishment in the Tories and Labour. That actually maybe we do try something a bit different. And maybe Farage, he seems all right. And they see clips of him. He's got a beer. He's talking to the people directly. When does Labour do that? When does Labour talk about actually, yeah, we care about working people and we're going to tackle the cost of living crisis? What have they done really that's meaningfully tackled inequality? They won't do it because they're bought and paid for by the same donors from the Tories. They're the exact people we need to be caring about because when we see people that feel left behind, they don't feel left behind. They have been left behind by decades of austerity and by successive governments, by politicians who are far too often speak to them like they're stupid. That's if they're even speaking to them at all. Ultimately, we need to reach out with this message of inequality and point out when multimillionaires and billionaires are taking more money than even ever before. The problem is not someone who's fleeing for their lives and might be traveling by small boat. The problem is flying above our head by private jet. And it needs to be that message because we've had that deluge and the British public have had the message of anti-immigration for decades, and you need to offer that alternative. This is why it's so dangerous that Labour buy into Farage's narrative. They should be challenging that narrative and offering people, actually, yeah, we need to rebuild the country. We need to offer high wages, good jobs, and challenge that framing. But by bolting in Farage, they've just made him more popular. And people go, well, okay, you're doing similar things. You're reducing immigration and talking a big game. But Farage, he's the real guy. And then when Farage is found out for who he is now, and we've recently found out, and people are waking up to who he is, and there's a certain talking point in an area where I think we can really undermine reform, people are going to restore. So, Lucas, a former MP who led the Green Party at various points between 2003 and 2018, was in the audience for Polanski's speech. Listening to reform voters is the starting point, as many of their concerns are perfectly legitimate, he said afterwards. We would disagree on the solutions they are reaching for, but when they have had the cost of living crisis for 20 years, when they had endless promises from other national governments that simply don't deliver, you can't be surprised that they act with a sense of desperation. If someone else is offering something that's better, there's a sense that it's worth giving it a try. And that is the case for a lot of reform voters. They're going, yeah, they've had their chance, let's go for something different. And what's available? Well, reform, UK. And we're seeing it with Zack Polanski. When people are offered another alternative, they go, oh yeah, I like Zack Polanski. He seems sincere. He's likable. He answers questions directly, because I think 4% of reform voters have trust in politics and politicians. It's a material conditions, it's a structural sociological phenomenon. A lot of these people are just normal people who have been victims of neoliberalism, alienation of capital. We can't judge these people as just bad individuals. So it's interesting to look at the who are the reform voter base. So financially secure, a lot of reform voters are, and this is older people usually who have their own home, decent pension, fairly good quality of life, and for years they've been exposed to the Daily Mail, right-wing media. You know, most of the media over the last 20 years has really focused on immigration, not really talking about wealth inequality and the structural material conditions that lead to a figure like Trump or Farage gaining momentum. And then Labour, 17%. Labour is a party now of kind of people who are fairly well off. So the Tories and the Lib Dems. And then financially insecure, Reform, 30%. So you've got that schism between people who are well off and people who are struggling. And it's the same with the Green Party. Reform and the Green Party, in many ways, are the parties of the working class. And this is where you need to tap into people's discontent and focus on, well, we'll get into the clip from Helena, but the attack lines really need to be on who's funding Farage. A lot of people who are attracted to Farage, when you talk about who's funding him, who he works for, the incentives there of actually will he work for the British people, a lot of reform voters actually do kind of go, yeah, like, you know, he's a wealthy man. We've got this £5 million. We've got this potential deal with Boris Johnson in 2019. You've got the cameo appearances. You know, he's, you know, a stakeholder in GB News. He's doing well for himself. Does he really care about the working people? Is he a career politician? You know, he's got the pension from being a European MEP. You know, he's doing well for himself. And there's questions that we can ask there and sow the seeds of doubt. Let's get into the clip of Helena, because I think she articulates it well, how we kind of appeal to reform voters and how we can steer away from typical liberal lines.
When we're talking about reform candidates, and people go in on the, oh, they're racist, oh, they're sexist, look at the things that they've said. I'm like, did that work against Donald Trump? Did it work calling Donald Trump racist and sexist? Did it work criticizing Donald Trump when he mocked a disabled person on camera? Did that stop Donald Trump getting elected? No, it didn't. Do I believe that lots of people who vote reform are racist and sexist? Yeah. Is it obvious that Donald Trump is both of those things and obviously hates the disabled? Of course it is, you know? Of course these people have all of these bigotries associated with them. But the idea that that's going to be in any way successful at defeating them politically shows you just how, I think, detached from the stuff that liberals are. I even said when Zack Polanski called Donald Trump racist and a misogynist or whatever on Question Time, I'm like, this is not going to cut through with anybody. It's especially bad when it came to like Trump and people were trying to denigrate Trump, and indeed they should do, and also compare Reform UK to him because they're very similar politically. Like, you don't need to use tired liberal insults like racist and sexist to understand the reality of what the manifestation of those beliefs is. Donald Trump has what is essentially a legalized goon squad, rounding people up for looking too brown. They've murdered people in the street. He's ripped up the Constitution. He's illegally started multiple wars. He blew up a school full of children in Iran. He's totally cucked out to Benjamin Netanyahu. He's essentially allowing Israel to engage in Lebensraum in Lebanon and in Gaza. and indeed in the West Bank as well. All of this without congressional oversight. Millions of people in Africa will die because of cuts to foreign aid made by the Trump administration, again, without congressional approval, who have the power of the purse, right? This guy is a monstrosity in basically every single sense of the word. He sent people to El Salvadorian torture gulags with no due process, just snatch people off the street, blackbag them, and send them to a gulag in El Salvador. You don't need to call this man racist and sexist. He's just a monster. And the reality of what his policies are is far more important than trite insults about things that he said and people that he's mocked. Bad as though they are, Trump still got elected twice. He still got elected twice. Liberal sensibilities are not how you're going to win over members of the public now. You need to look at the mass deportations plan that Reform are doing and saying, that's going to be like US ICE. We're going to have goon squads on the streets, just like Trump's SSR right now. That's the reality of the police state that we'll be in under these people. And again, it's a police state that the Starmer administration are rolling the carpet for Reform UK to have in terms of stripping away civil liberties and protections and rights to protest, stripping away jury trials. This is the material reality that a Reform administration would be like. When we're talking about Reform candidate...
Yeah, I think obviously there's a place to criticise Reform and racism. I don't think that's how you bring them over directly. I think my focus is on who's funding Farage, where's his money coming from, who's he really working for? Is it Russia? Is it Thai billionaire Christopher Horborn? Is it Aaron Banks? Is it Richard Tice? Like, where's the money coming from, and what are they getting? Like, this £5 million, there's a big question mark over that. Like, where's it coming from? His story changed so many times. It was unconditional. It was a gift. It was a reward for Brexit for 27 years of work. Big questions there. And Reform are anti-corporate. They are really anti-corporate in their sentiment. They want often renationalisation in the same way Green Party do. So we can tap into that discontent and focus really on NHS. He's going to privatise the NHS. The NHS is beloved universally in the UK. We need to fund the NHS properly, and that means, a bit more taxes on the wealthy. And then you need to focus on also cost of living. The Iran war has raised cost of living for Americans and will all over the world. We need to focus on that. Like, Farage was first to jump at that Iran war. That's how you tap into it. Do you want to get involved in another war? Do you want your food prices to go up 10%? Petrol prices to go up? Do you want to go on holiday this summer? Because that's where you get people. It's like cost of living is the biggest one. How do you tackle cost of living? Reform are bought and paid for by fossil fuel companies. We need energy sovereignty. We need people to have a sense that actually there's hope for the future too. Because that's the missing bit from Reform. They don't actually offer hope. They offer grievance. And that's where, really, it's not just enough to attack Reform, it's what you're offering. Because in America, it's easy to attack Trump. But what was Kamala Harris offering? When she was asked what she'd do differently to Joe Biden, she said, I'd do the same. That's not what people want. People want change. And for a lot of people, Reform UK embody that change. There's a veneer of difference there, even though they work for the same people. And that story is so important. It's storytelling that really captures people's imagination. It's tapping into their emotions. Okay, you've not been listened to by the establishment, but we're going to listen to you. And it's not about immigration. I don't think it's about immigration. It's not about the numbers. It's about being listened to. It's about having people's concerns taken seriously. And we've got to do that because a lot of Reform voters are just working class, normal people who have been fed a line that is they're being misled essentially. And if I was being misled, I would want people to be sympathetic, empathetic, understanding, and lead me to a better place. And that's what we've got to do to Reform voters, because otherwise they'll just vote for Reform, and no one wants that. So we have to appeal to them. Sometimes you've got to call out the racism, but you've got to realize that there's something deeper happening here, and it's the material conditions that lead to people voting Reform. They're not just bad people, they've been dealt a bad hand. So tell me your thoughts below. How do we appeal to Reform voters? I think you've got to listen, you've got to be sympathetic, and really attack Farage and be sympathetic to people who think he has the answers. So Tell me your thoughts below, join the membership for 99 pence a month, and I'll see you in the next video.